We move over here to the Kraken, and because of some moved over dates, because the Pittsburgh Steelers and Buffalo Bills wildcard game got moved to today, Monday, the Kraken game started at 10 a.m. So by the time that you're seeing this, the Kraken game has already happened for that day, but we will obviously wrap that up next week for you. So looking at it, things continue to stay hot. The Kraken began their 6-game road trip on the road in Buffalo, and kept things rolling with that 5-2 victory. They kept things pushing. It was an ugly start to begin this game. Seattle kind of began things sluggish, didn't get off on the right foot. Those two goals that the Sabres scored were both mistakes, really. Seattle was able to clean things up, and behind a 3-goal second period, the Kraken were able to move on. Another stellar performance from Joey Daccord. Our player of the game was forward Jaden Schwartz. Schwartz activated after missing 17 games, had been on long-term IR, and it was really nice to see him get back into the lineup and add instant impact. 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points, a 2+-, 1 hit, and 1 shot on the day. Then a few days later, they headed to the nation's capital for a battle with the Washington Capitals, and that was a nice, concise, satisfying victory, a 4-1 win over Washington. Similar to the game against Buffalo, it really looked like the Kraken were going to start out slow, heavy feet, heavy skates early on, some mistakes, but we're able to figure some things out here. Joey Daccord was once again rock solid, continuing to get these consecutive starts in a row. There are the dates in between, so there is that little bit of rest, which is nice, but continuing to perform well, and Seattle able to keep the win streak pushing. That win tied their win streak from last season at 8 games. Our player of the game, defenseman Adam Larson, the Big Cat, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points, a 2+-, 1 hit, and 1 shot on the day. So that kept things pushing. Then we move over to the 3rd game of the road trip, the midway point. This one, another poor start for the Kraken. They get burned early on. It's an ugly first period, but ultimately some gritty performances offensively and some timely saves by Joey Daccord. And the Kraken are able to win this one, putting up 7 goals in a 7-4 win over the Columbus Blue Jackets. Our player of the game, another player that stepped up. He'd been taking on the centerman role, something that he'd done previously in his career, but not so much in his time with the Kraken. Jared McCann, 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points, a 2+-, and 4 shots on the night for Canner, including the game-winning goal in this one as Seattle went and pulled away late. Excuse me. Also in this game, with his 3-point night, he was able to reach 300 career points. He was one of 2 players on the Kraken to reach such milestone in this game, as his teammate Yanni Gourde also reached 300 career points in this one. So we look over here to player of the week, and while I could go with Joey Daccord once again, he's been rock solid throughout the entirety of this point streak and this win streak. Gene Schwartz coming off of injured reserve, long-term IR, in fact, and really making an instant impact. As I said in that game against Buffalo, just you look over his past 3 games, 1 goal, 3 assists, a 4-point week for Jaden Schwartz, 3+-, 4 shots, 2 hits, and 3 blocks. Oliver Bjorkstrand also had a really solid week in this one, Seattle's lone all-star, as Vince Dunn and Joey Daccord did not make the fan vote. But, for Jaden Schwartz to come off of injury, miss 17 games and several weeks, and be able to come in and provide instant offense for a team that, by the time that you're watching this, is missing a few forwards due to injury, that's really important, and Jaden Schwartz has been a consistent performer for this team since he came here during the ahead of the inaugural season. I apologize. So, speaking about that and injury-related news, we're going to go right into the team talk. January 13th against Columbus, midway through the first period, for Andre Burakovsky left the game with a lower body injury and did not return. By the time that you're seeing this, Dave Haxtell still hasn't provided an update on him. He just was ruled out of that game after he had been taken out midway through the first period. And then going into the second intermission, Matty Beniers did not play at all in the third period against Columbus, and he's not playing today against Pittsburgh. So some concerns there about Matty, unsure about that. Vince Dunn did not leave the game at all against Columbus, but he is not playing against Pittsburgh as well. So tough one right now for the Kraken. The injury bug has hurt them all season long, and those are three notable players, really notable players for them to be missing as they're playing the first game of a back-to-back. So anyway, we'll look at this winning streak as a whole. And again, the primary factor has to be Joey Daccord. He's been rock solid, just a calm presence in net for the Kraken, making the timely saves when they're needed. Obviously there's been the rough starts to those games that we talked about during this road trip, but those rough starts get a lot worse if Joey Daccord isn't playing as well as he is right now. Looking at other factors of this current winning streak, the depth scoring is back. I believe it's 18 different players have scored for the Kraken during the current point streak. So they continue to find that depth scoring during this positive run as the calendar year of 2024 has been underway for them. Something that obviously was such a big thing for them during last season, but this isn't a different team this year, obviously, but you're seeing some of the similar aspects of last season's team coming out again in this one. The resiliency, the relentlessness, the high-paced offense, the high-pressure offense as well. And defensively, this team, we go to another factor of this winning streak. This team defensively has looked strong. They haven't made a lot of boneheaded mistakes. They've looked structured, and they cleaned things up. They're not giving Joey Daccord a lot of tough shots to look at. They're keeping the teams outside to the perimeter and giving him easier shots to take care of in net. So those have all been great things to see. How long you're able to keep that going, I don't want to say anything because they're, in the middle of their game against Pittsburgh right now. But then you look at the Rangers game. The Rangers have been one of the best teams in the league this season. That's not going to be an easy one. You look towards the end of the road trip. Edmonton has had Seattle's number for just about their entire existence. So we'll see. But thankfully, this win streak and the current run that they're on right now has kind of wiped away the horrible start that the Kraken had to begin the season. So we're kind of seeing Seattle dig themselves out of it. Got to keep things up because with the way that some of the other wildcard teams are playing and the way that some of the teams in your division are playing, you can't really afford to go and struggle again and find yourself in another hole or lose ground. You have to continue to gain ground and put yourself in a better position for later into the season when we're, scoreboard watching and you're stacking points and every point matters. So that's what we've got for the current win streak. The only small bit of team-related news, it was announced on the 10th that the team will wear their Winter Classic jerseys 2 more times in 2 different games here. February 24th at home versus the Minnesota Wild, and then March 24th versus the Montreal Canadiens there. So it's really nice to see that, we'll get to see these incredible jerseys on display once again. Vegas wore theirs the other night. They would lose pretty badly in a game against the Calgary Flames, so their jerseys haven't been good luck. Here's to hoping that Seattle's Winter Classic jerseys in these 2 games they play, February 24th versus Minnesota and March 24th versus Montreal, end up being good luck, just like the Winter Classic was for Seattle. So we look ahead, as I mentioned, by the time that you're seeing this, the 19-win, 14-loss, 9 overtime loss Kraken sitting at 5th in the Pacific Division, tied with the Oilers, but because the Oilers have the head-to-head, they are ahead in the 4th place spot. Both teams at 47 points. This game, 10 a.m. start, is already underway and will be done by the time that you see today's episode. January 16th, tomorrow, the second game of a back-to-back. Again, New York, one of the best teams in the NHL. It's going to be a tough test. That's a 4 o'clock Pacific time start, January 16th in Madison Square Garden. Then to wrap up their 6-game homestand, road trip, So wrap up their 6-game road trip, the Kraken will head to Edmonton for a battle with the Oilers. January 18th, that's a 6 p.m. Pacific time puck drop. As I mentioned, Edmonton has had Seattle's number throughout the Kraken's existence in the NHL. So still looking to continue the positive momentum. And Edmonton has been on a hot streak of their own. They're currently on a 10-game winning streak. So it's not going to be any easy. It's not going to be easy at all going against that Oilers team. Then on Sunday, to wrap up a 4-game week, the Kraken will come home to Climate Pledge Arena, and they will play January 21st versus the Toronto Maple Leafs, one of the better teams as well in the NHL, with Willie Nylander, who just signed a massive contract extension for the Leafs. Austin Matthews, one of the best-known players in the National Hockey League, and former Kraken player Martin Jones might be in net for that game. Recently named one of the top stars of the month in the NHL. So big one there.